A Country Girl's Beginnings and Persistence. In the summer of 2003, 13-year-old Taylor Swift sat in the bedroom of her Pennsylvania home with a guitar in her hands. Her fingertips were red and swollen from practicing, but she didn't care. Her eyes were full of stubbornness. The sunlight from the window pours in and shines on her notebook full of lyrics. There she recorded her observations of life, her visions of love, and her dreams for the future. "Mom!" Taylor looked up, her voice firm. "I want to go to Nashville. I want more people to hear my songs." Her mother, Andrea, froze for a moment, then smiled and said, "Do you know how hard that is, honey? There's a lot of competition there, and a lot of people have the same dreams as you." "I know," Taylor said, her voice trembling a little as she looked down at her guitar. "But if I don't try, I'll never know if I can do it." Andrea was silent for a moment, then gently patted her daughter's shoulder. "Okay, we'll try. But you have to promise me that no matter how hard it is, you can't give up easily." So the ordinary family made a bold decision to move to Nashville, Tennessee, known as the capital of country music. With her guitar and her passion, Taylor embarked on a challenging journey. Early setbacks and breakthroughs. Music Row in Nashville is a road of hope and disappointment. Wearing her favorite cowboy boots and clutching samples of songs she'd recorded, Taylor knocked on doors of record labels one by one. Her voice was crystal clear, but at the end of each interview, she always received a polite smile and a "we'll get back to you." Once, Taylor and her mother waited in the car for 6 hours for an interview. When she was finally called into the office, it only took 3 minutes to get rid of her. Tears welled up in Taylor's eyes as she walked out of the office, but she gritted her teeth and told her mother, "It's okay that they don't believe in me. I believe in me." The real turning point came during a performance at the Bluebird Cafe. It was a cold night, and Taylor stood on a small stage in front of a crowd of less than 20 people. She played her guitar and sang her song, Tim McGraw. As the last note dropped, the crowd erupted in applause, including Big Machine Records founder Scott Borchetta. Scott walked up and said to Taylor, "You have a special voice, but more importantly, your lyrics have a story. Would you like to join us?" Taylor's heart was beating fast as she tried to make her voice sound calm. "Of course, I'd like to." The golden age of country music. In 2006, Taylor released her self-titled debut album, Taylor Swift. The single Tim McGraw from the album quickly rose to the top of the country music charts, and Taylor made a name for herself. Her music is pure and honest, and her lyrics are filled with stories of adolescent love and the struggles of growing up, which resonate with countless young people. However, as her fame grew, Taylor began to face pressure and skepticism from the outside world. Some critics thought her music was too simple and lacked depth. In one interview, a reporter asked her, "How long do you think you'll be able to stay in the country music scene? After all, most of your songs are about love." Taylor smiled slightly and replied, "Love is the most universal human emotion, but it's also the most complicated. I just write my own stories, and if people find resonance in them, that's my success." In 2008, Taylor released her sophomore album, Fearless. The album not only solidified her place in the country music scene, but also gave her her first attempt at combining country and pop music. The singles Love Story and You Belong With Me became worldwide hits, and Taylor won her first Grammy Award. The beginning of a transformation. With the success of her career, Taylor began to realize that her music needed a bigger breakthrough, and in 2012, she released the album Red, an experimental work with obvious pop elements in We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together and I Knew You Were Trouble. It was an experimental work with obvious pop elements in We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together and I Knew You Were Trouble. However, the transition did not go smoothly. Some loyal fans of country music felt that Taylor had betrayed her roots and began to question whether she could still be called a country singer. In the face of these criticisms, Taylor confessed in an interview, "I'm not abandoning country music, but I'm exploring more possibilities. I want my music to be a bridge between different styles and people." Nonetheless, the success of Red paved the way for the next step in her metamorphosis. Taylor began to attract more young fans, even those who don't normally listen to country music. The rise of a pop star. In 2014, Taylor released her fifth album, 1989, which was a full-blown pop album. The albums Shake It Off, Blank Space, and Style quickly hit the charts around the world, and Taylor became a top pop star. The success of 1989 was not only due to the style of the music, but also the story behind it. The album shows Taylor's response to external criticism and her insistence on self-identity. In Shake It Off, she sings, "Haters gonna hate, 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 hate." The lyrics have become a cultural phenomenon, inspiring countless young people to face criticism and be true to themselves. However, as her fame grew, Taylor's life became more complicated. She became embroiled in a variety of media controversies, including feuds with other celebrities and revelations about her love life. In an interview, Taylor said, "I know I can't please everyone, but I can choose to be true to myself. I want my music to be a force that helps people find their own voice." Changing the world with music. In 2020, Taylor released two very different albums, Folklore and Evermore, during the epidemic. These two albums returned to her original creative roots, filled with storytelling and poetry. Her music tells the stories of ordinary people and shows her deep insight into human nature and life. Taylor's fans have been amazed by her versatility and touched by her sincerity. One fan wrote on social media, "Taylor's music has accompanied me through every stage of my life, from the confusion of adolescence to the growth of adulthood. She's not just a singer, she's a storyteller." The power of transformation. Taylor Swift's musical journey is a story of transformation and growth. From a country girl with a dream to a global pop star, she has used music to record her own story and help countless others find their own voice. She once said, "Change is not scary, it's the fear of change that's scary." I want my music to be a strength for people, to help them find their own path. These words are not only her promise to herself, but also her encouragement to every listener. Her story tells us that no matter how many challenges we face, as long as we stick to our beliefs and bravely pursue our dreams, we can create our own miracles. Her music is a true record of this journey.